All right, so that's what this box says here. To factor, write the GCF on the outside of the parentheses and then write what you need to multiply by on the inside of the parentheses to get back your original problem. Okay? So that's what we did up here. 4x times x plus 6. Let's try this next one. So, first thing we need to do is come up with the GCF of 27 and 45. Now, some of you may be able to do this really fast in your head. Like, you know what numbers go into 27, you know what numbers go into 45, and that's great. If you're not able to do it fast in your head, list them out like this. Use your calculator. Use your calculator and list them out. So 27 is 1 and 27 or 3 and 9. That's it. 45 is 1 times 45 and 3 times 15 and 5 times 9. Those are the only factors of 45. Now, which one is the highest, the greatest that they both have in common? So the greatest number they both have in common would be the 9s, right? So that's the GCF of 27 and 45. It's 9. Then we also got to look at the variables, though. So x to the 7th and x to the 4th, how many x's do they have in common? So x to the 7th is 7 of those x's. X to the 4th is 4. How many do they have in common? Well, they have 4 in common, right? Those 4 are common to those 4 right there. See that? And you don't have to write out those x's all the time. If you just know, basically, after a while of doing these, after practicing these a lot, you'll know what your GCF is. It's basically how many x's do they share? Well, 27 has 7 x's, but the 45 only has 4 x's, so they share 4 of them. Okay? So now, ready? We're going to write our answer. So you write the GCF on the outside of the parentheses. So 9x to the 4th goes on the outside. And then you write parentheses. And now we have to think about, okay, how, if we were to multiply 9x to the 4th times something, how would we get back 27x to the 4th? So we would need to multiply by 3. And we'd also need to multiply x to the 3rd. Because that would give us x to the 7th if we multiplied. If we took x to the 4th and added x to the 3rd to it, we would get our x to the 7th. All right? Then we have a minus sign. And then we got to think about, okay, how do we get back to 45x to the 4th? So to go from 9 to 45, we got to multiply by 5. And then x to the 4th times something to get us back to x to the 4th. Well, that means we don't need any x's at all, because we have all our x's already in our GCF. We have all 4 of them in our GCF, so we don't have to multiply by any more x's. So this is it. This is our answer right here. I know it's very colorful, but that's your final answer. I'm going to do this one real quick. The GCF of 15, 10, and 25. And now, actually, look at this. Some of them are negative. So our GCF is actually going to be negative 5. Okay? Negative 5. That's the number that's common in all of them. And then how many x's do they have in common? Well, we have x to the 5th, x to the 3rd, and x. So basically, they only have 1 in common. Okay? And then we have, look at our y's. We have y to the 3rd, y to the 7th, and y to the 2nd. How many do they all have in common? They have 2 of them in common. So that's our GCF. So now we're going to write our GCF on the outside of the parentheses, like that. And now we have to think about, okay, what do we need to multiply by to get back to negative 15, x to the 5th, y to the 3rd? Okay? So to go from negative 5 to negative 15, we have to multiply by 3. To go from x to the 5th, we need x to the 4th. And to go from y to the 2nd to y to the 3rd, we need an extra y. All right? Then we got to go from negative 5 to negative 10, so we have to multiply by positive 2. We have to go from x to the 3rd, which will need x squared. And then to go from y to the 2nd to y to the 7th, we need y to the 5th. And then finally, the last one, we need to go from negative 5 to positive 25. So we got to multiply by negative 5. And then we got to go from x to x. Well, that's fine. We don't need to do any x's because we have all our x's already accounted for. We have x in our GCF, and we only need x in our expression. Same thing with y squared. We have y squared. We only need to get back to y squared. So we don't have to multiply by any x's or any y's. And then this is our answer. All right, so I want you to practice some of these. I want you to do the next 2 slides for practice. This slide right here, classwork, and this slide here also. Slides, I guess that's slide 3 and 4.